Good evening and welcome once again to the penultimate round of the W12 Sprint Series Season 4 already. It is the penultimate round of Season 4, a 12-week series, and we're already at week 11 with a break in between. Of course, joining me in the commentary booth this evening, once again, is Kevin Getzero. I hope once again I pronounced that last name correct. Kevin, you can see in the background we're at the Temple of Speed with some tricky cars.
Yes, we are. Welcome everybody. We are at Autodromo Nazionale Monza, or just Monza in short, for as you guys probably know it best. And we are driving, or our drivers are driving, the Porsche Cup car, which is always a tricky one to drive. I think especially with those hard braking zones and tight chicanes that we've got here at Monza, it should be quite good to watch, I think.
Yeah, what I'm looking most forward to is, of course, that lap one, that corner one, because as we know, Kevin, this track, Monza, a track, of course, we used the full configuration here today, of course, located in Monza in Italy. A track length of 5.75 kilometers. What that is in miles, I don't know. Do you know, Kevin?
No. I'm also European, so we use the correct measurements here. So you're gonna have to figure that one out on your own.
Well then, we are already 22 minutes into the 30-minute practice. The drivers have been practicing a lot. Of course, we're watching Mario Zug now. Of course, the championship is one thing. We don't think personally that it is going to be decided here this evening because Jonas Vana and all the others are here that can challenge the man at the top. Talking about the championship, I think it's time for us to also look at the championship. Here we go. We have, if we go one more to the top.
Okay, it's not at the top for whatever reason. I'm sorry about that. There it is.
Doesn't matter. We all make mistakes, Kevin. Mirko Bortolotti leads the championship, the number 888. Of course, 475 points. I have to mention, though, that this is without the drop scores applied. So every driver at the moment has the drops or doesn't have the drop scores applied to them, which is, of course, a big influence. We've talked with Mirko about this as well before. And, of course, the drop scores haven't been applied yet. And if Mirko performs well here, he has quite a big points that he should drop if he has the drop scores that he applies. Because, of course, in every round, in the second part of the season, he has scored pretty well, as you can see by the lead he has at the moment in the championship. Second in the championship, Jonas Vana on 331 points. He wasn't here last week, if I remember correctly. So he has two servers already that he doesn't, or that he probably will drop because it's a zero score in the second part of the season. So if he scores badly in one of the servers here, that's not too bad for him. He can drop that score and he will not lose too much. But in third in the championship is Mario Zug, 319 points. No matter what happens there, that will be a fight that will go right down to the wire. At the last week, of course, next week on Monday. Hendrik Augustin in fourth. In fifth, it is Benedict Hitz. In sixth, Niels Langeveld. Of course, he had an amazing week. Last time out, of course, got a penalty in week 2. We'll get to the penalties in a bit. We'll go over them from last week as well. Martin Stadtmann in 7th. 8th, Thomas Piba. Benjamin Moser in P9 and Pascal Haas P10. Hugo Zasse, P11 ahead of Marco Zeila in P12 in the championship. Florian Becker, who once again managed to avoid having to buy the Red Bull ring during the draw here this evening, is in 13. Julian Rambo is in 14. Patrick Hen in 15th. 16th, Robert Heger. 17th, Marek Beckman. Maximilian Paul in 18th. 19th, Jan Philipp Springop. And in 20th, it is Josh Fowles. That is the top 20 for you. Kevin is going to scroll through to the other pages for you to look at all the other drivers. We're not going to go over all of them. If you want to see where your favorite driver is, you can, of course, pause the live stream here. But we are, of course, going to move over to the Silver Championship once every driver has been on your screen. We're now showing positions 21 till 40. And I think there are 10 more drivers behind that. Also, drivers on minus points. That's also something that is here with us this evening. Still drivers on minus points. Marcus Rima, Benedict Hochleitner, Gustavo Xavier, Manix Heister. All of those 4 drivers are on minus points. That is the overall championship. Let's move on to the silver class. And Kev, why don't you do that one?
Well, the silver class, there it is. You've got it on screen right now. Very, very, very close here in the silver class, especially as Dan said with the overall standings. The same applies here. Drop points will still be applied, so don't take those gaps for granted. Next week we will start off with the championship standings with all of the drop scores applied, so you might see a couple of changes, of course, after the racing tonight and after the drop scores will have been applied. But still, even before drop scores, the silver class extremely close at the top. We've got 4 drivers over 100 points or just at 100 points. Benny Mimosa leads the silver class with 140 points. Florian Becker in second with 110 points, Patrick Henn with 101 points, and Julien Rambeau with 100 points. So those 4 very close to each other in the title fight. Right after them, we've got Stefano Pellegrino in 5th with 64, Florian Stadtmann 61 points, Jean Terre 49 points, Tyler Klosch 25 points, already a bit further behind. Ben Bühnagel 22, Chris Meyer in 21 points. And yeah, this time around as well, we're not gonna go over all of them. You can see all of the silver drivers on screen right now. But you gotta say, those 4 drivers still really, really, really close in the fight for the championship, the silver championship.
Yeah, well, all really close there. Of course, if you apply drop scores, it will get even closer. Usually that is the case. Of course, I mentioned that, of course, Niels Langeveld had a great evening, but he had a penalty last time round. I'm quickly going to go over the penalties from last round while you look, of course, at those beautiful cars going around the circuit of Monza. And server 1, very clean server. No penalties whatsoever in server 1 last time round. In server 2, that was different though. Hendrik Augustin had it coming together with Josh Files. A contact in heat 1, 10 seconds there for, if I'm correct, Hendrik Augustin. Of course, we had a 10-second penalty for Josh Files as well for contact with Christian Maya in the heat race 1 as well. A 25-second for causing a collision for Clement Schmidt with Jan-Philipp Springop. Of course, contact there as well, like I said, causing a collision. Then we have another 10 seconds in the feature race for Niels Langeveld, of course, with Benjamin Moses. That's the penalty I just talked about. Then we have 4 further penalties to talk about. Pascal Haas got a penalty in the feature race, or rather a warning. And for a position drop behind Mark Buckman, I think, if I'm correct, that was at the start of the race. Then we have Martin Stadtmann, who had a collision with Maximilian Paul, got 25 seconds for causing a collision. Julien Rambeau at lap 1. A warning for not taking necessary avoiding actions despite having time to do so. That is the reasoning. A pit lane start in this Heat 1 race, if I am correct. Marius Souk also got a 10-second time penalty for contact in lap 1. Those are all the penalties from last week. Quite a lot in server 2, but server 1, as always, like we're almost used to here, Kev, quite clean.
Yeah, it's last time round the driving standards were really good. Really gotta say that. Very good racing as well. Very intense stuff we've seen in week 10 of the W12 Sprint Series, as we jump over into qualifying for the penultimate week of the W12 Sprint Series. You've talked about it, Dan. I'm let's go. We are very much ready for tonight. We hope that we get some great racing as well, and this qualifying should give us, I hope, a first glimpse of what we could expect.
Well, I have to mention, though, of course, this being the penultimate round, that next round is going to be a spectacle. Kevin and I are going to see our beautiful faces next time round, if all is well. Of course, if none of us get sick, we hope that is not going to be the case. But if that isn't the case, we're going to see our beautiful faces once again, like you were used to in seasons 3 and 2. Of course, that is because it is the last round of season 4. We, of course, will have the draw. Everything will be the same. The build-up to every round will be the same. It is just that how we do the live stream will be a little bit more spectacular than it is normally. There will, of course, we're putting so much effort into already making sure that everything is correct. But of course, it's going to just be a little bit more special, that last round. Of course, also because of it being the last round. So make sure you are there next week, because it is going to be an absolute spectacle. Of course, last round, everything still to fight for. However, Kevin and I have come before this evening started, or before the broadcast in the green room. We, of course, had a little chat about the championship. And we both were agreeing on the fact that, well, however Mirko is going to drop a lot of points, it is still going to be difficult for the competition to catch up with the gap that he has. Let's say best bet is going to drop 75 points. The gap will still be, if we look at the championship, I have it in front of me, will still be quite a lot, about 30 to 34 points or 35 is what we are expecting to happen. But of course, saying that, we're now into the qualifying. This qualifying, as always, Kevin, a one-shot qualifying, so they won't go all out. At least that's what we are expecting. Mirko said to us earlier on, he's never 99.5%. He's always 100, if not 110%. So I think expecting a lot here from Mirko in this first servers, because he can take the risk. He can take a drop score, because he has to take drop scores before this evening. So I think Mirko is one to look out for this evening, but also all the others. It's Judgment Day now. They have to go for it.
Yeah, as always. I don't think the drivers are treating this race, or any race in particular, different from all the others. They always want to do their best, to show their best pace on track, and I hope, or I'm expecting that they will all push very hard, also tonight, as we are used to from them.
Yeah, of course. Well, Thomas Piba just needs to complete the last lap, curva parabolica, and when he's gone through that, then we'll see what he can put down. Niels Langeveld, purple sector 2. We see Winston Eckel going to P1 with the purple sector 1, of course. People now putting in the lap times. There goes Mirko Bortolotti across the line. Thomas Piba as well across the line now. Mirko Bortolotti with a 150.077 at the moment in pole position. Augustin in second, 77 thousandths of a second behind that. And Winston Eckel in P4 now, because Niels Langeveld goes to the top on a 150.051. He's quick, isn't he, Niels Langeveld? He's upped his game, really, since last week. Last week was, I think, the first time we saw him really properly putting that pace down, challenging Mirko Bortolotti in every car. Usually, we were used to seeing that in the TCRs, of course, a car that he knows so well. But last week, he did it in the GT4s, and he did it in the TCRs. Or in the Toyotas and in the TCRs, excuse me.
Yeah, he's performing really well those last couple of weeks. As Patrick Henn won't make it over the line. Very short qualifying session. A lot of drivers couldn't make their qualifying lap, couldn't finish their qualifying lap. Let's quickly have a look at the grid for the first race. You can see those are finishers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so on and so forth from the qualifying session. So Niels Langeveld will start the first heat race from pole position. And there you can see, of course, the grid for this first heat race. If the stream seems a bit buggy at the moment, I can only apologize. On my end, it's telling me that it's dropping a couple of frames every now and then. So I hope it's still somewhat watchable, but we are aware of the issue and we'll try to fix it. Just for your information.
Well, Kev, I think the biggest thing at the moment for us, or for the viewers, is of course Niels Langeveld tipping Mirko Bortolotti there in qualifying. Like I said, the end of this qualifying really has seen, or the end of this race and the last week, so it really has seen Niels Langeveld challenge Mirko Bortolotti. So I'm excited maybe for next week as well, to see what Niels Langeveld can do. Of course, 6th in the championship, quite a far way behind Mirko Bortolotti. I don't think he's still in that championship fight, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be an exciting one. The drivers are on the grid, and yeah, looking forward to the race start here.
So they are gridding right now. The lights should pop up any second now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights, and we're off and away in the first server here with the Porsche Cup at Monza. Niels Langeveld, good start there from him. He manages to keep his first position. We've got a crash there in the background already. Somebody spun around and hit the wall there, and we're going into turn 1, and there is Thomas Pieper trying it around the outside of turn 1. And he does it. He's through up into P1, but he's got a tank slapper on the way out and drops back down 2 positions. The quicker, he won it very quickly and he lost it very quickly right after that as well. So Niels Langeveld had a bit of a scare at the start, lost his first place, but managed to get it back right away.
Well, difficult cars here, Kevin. These Porsche Cup cars. Of course, these cars, no TC in them and no ABS, if I'm correct. So you can spin easily on throttle. You have to have a certain control of how you put the power down, and also the braking as well, because it's very difficult. Already some damage on the front of Florian Stadtmann, his Porsche. You can see that there. The curbs, the sausage curbs on the inside of the second chicane, they do cause damage to the car if you hit them in the wrong way. So definitely something the drivers have to watch out for, Kev.
Yes, Monza with its huge curbs. We can see the car, Maximilian Paul behind him right there, almost jumping when driving over them. And I think that the Porsche Cup is a car that isn't too bad at taking curbs, as we see an overtake right behind them here for P2. Thomas Pieper getting back past Hendrik Augustin into P2. But yeah, there's still very, very high curbs, so you still do want to avoid them. But sometimes, you know, in a fight, when you're going 2 wide or 3 wide or whatever, there might not be another option, as we might see now the reverse overtake. Hendrik Augustin, no, he's not going for it. He was very close to the car of Thomas Pieper in front, but takes the slipstream for now. 6 minutes, of course, these heat races, so not a lot of time to get your overtakes done if you want them, as it might happen now at the back again. Florian Stadtmann against Maximilian Paul, now Stadtmann in behind.
Well,
look at them side by side.
A good opening here to the heat race. Florian Stadtmann trying to defend from Maximilian Paul, not quite able to do so, and now might also lose a position to Patrick Hen. Patrick Hen goes to the inside of the first Lesmo. Can he make it stick though? Quite a tricky corner to run through side by side. He does give him the room, and of course Haas now also trying to look up the inside of Florian Stadtmann, and there you can see, if you lose a little bit of momentum here in these Porsche Cup cars, you could be burgled by 2, maybe 3 other cars at the same time.
yeah, it's the drivers taking their chances whenever they get them. And Pascalas might see his chance right there. We're looking at another fight that's getting very, very close at the moment. Chanter against Clement Schmidt right in front of him. He's right up his rear bumper, but also decides against an overtake. It's probably easier into the first corner anyway. Taking all of that slipstream down the start-finish straight. And maybe going for it in the heavy braking zone. Let's see if he tries it. They're right behind Clement Schmidt. He's still a bit far away, but yeah, not getting close enough for a real overtake there. We'll have to try again sometime soon, I hope.
Yeah, well, Niels Langeveld still in the lead. 3/10 the gap at the front of the field. Lap times that we're seeing here, of course, you saw them in qualifying. 1 minute 50 is the best lap time we have. Once again, Niels Langeveld at 150.05. So doing the lap times he did in quali, but it's not enough at the moment to break that slipstream to Thomas Piban. That's what I like about these Porsche Cup cars. They're all the same for everyone. The setup is the same for everyone. So it's basically the driver that has to make the difference, as it is so often here in the W12 series. And at a track like this, where you have a lot of slipstream coming into play, it is very difficult to create that gap in front of the field to maybe ease it a little bit. You have to push 100% every lap here, and that is what Niels Langeveld is having to do at the moment. I do think that Niels Langeveld is going to have to put one lap to it as well, because with 1 minute left, they're surely going to cross that line with time to go.
Yeah, it's pretty likely because they're already one corner away from the start-finish straight. So one more lap after this. Niels Langeveld already going to the inside, trying to defend from Thomas Piban, who is on the outside right now. But again, thinks better of it. Let's see if he gets a good enough exit to maybe start an overtake on Niels in the first corner of the final lap. We'll see. They're coming across the line right now. And there he is, Niels Langeveld on the inside, right now behind Piban. Looked very similar times when the noses were dropping down, but Piban might have overdone it a bit on the entry. Let's see, Niels with a great exit there, at least better than Thomas Piban's, and keeps his position for the moment. But Thomas Piban again very close, again going to the outside, which might not be bad for this one. Let's see. Side by side, going into the chicane. Not quite enough once again, but it's so close at the moment. Really good fighting, really clean fighting between all of the drivers. And now Piban might have to defend now from Hendrik Augustin, who has used that fight to get a bit closer to him.
Thomas Piban, what can he do? I think he's lost that draft, that initial very strong draft to Niels Langeveld. Augustin now seems closer to Piban, but of course Piban still has a little bit of that draft from Niels Langeveld. The run down through Curva Parabolica still is quite a long one. So if he gets a good exit out here out of Ascari, he could still do something into Parabolica. He does. The gap is out to 2.5 seconds or to 2.5 tenths. There could be an attack here from Thomas Piban. He might be a little bit too far back to try something up the inside. He has to go to the outside. I think Niels Langeveld does have this covered. It's going to be all on this exit. The run down to the line. The line is very early on this straight, so it's not too much of a slipstream that you get to the line. I think Niels Langeveld has this. Yes, he does. He comes through to win that heat race and get pole position for the feature race. Thomas Piban in second, and Hendrik Augustin in third there, Kevin. But if this is anything to go off for heat race 2 and the feature race, well, we are going to be in for a treat here.
Yes, that was a very, very exciting first heat race that we've been presented here. Let's look at the results or not. If SDK decides to show them, it doesn't. Well, then let's try the grid for the second race. Maybe that one's working. It isn't.
For me, it is.
It is for you. Well, I can see it.
Yes.
Well, then I hope. Well, there it is. Took its sweet time to show up. Yeah, but there you got the grid for the second race, because we're already almost starting over there. Only one driver missing from the starting grid, and then we can start. But yeah, Mirko Bortolotti starting from pole position, ahead of Winston Eckel, Martin Stadtmann in P3, and the drivers are lining up. So we're gonna go over there and start.
Oh, a jump start on the left-hand side for Stadtmann. Stadtmann has to drop all the way back to the grid, of course. Is going to have a drive-through now, which the Eckel with a bad start as well. There goes his P2, but Stadtmann, even before the lights went down, already got a penalty. A jump start there for the second Gazak's Porsche.
Big lockups!
He goes wide. That is a big mistake there for Mirko Bortolotti. Doesn't cost him anything. Winston Eckel for P2, dropping all the way down to the back of the grid. There's a car around in the background as well. Manages to keep it going in a straight line. But that is a start there, Kevin, if I've ever seen one. Luckily for everyone, they all managed to keep it going.
Oh no, there it is!
Isn't for long. That is Julian Rambo together with, I think that is Markus Deutsch as well involved in that, the silver driver. But wow, that was incredible.
Well, so much action, only in turn one. That's classic Monza for you, I guess. Turn one, always a spectacle. Oh, we see a driver going wide there. I think that's Jan Linz. Yeah, he's gone wide through the second Lesmo. Coming back on track, nothing happened there. But yeah, a lot of lockups, a lot of smoke, a lot of tires going into just turning into dust. But yeah, Max Deutsch in the pits already. I don't think we've got a couple of drivers that have dropped back a bit. But if you look at the grid right now, we've got a good look of it. Most of the drivers seem to have gone through that okay, I guess, I'd say.
Yeah, they did. Well, let's just say here, Kevin, that Mirko Bortolotti has managed to do what Niels Langeveld didn't manage to do last time round. That is create a bit of a gap, of course, helped by the chaos we had on lap 1. Meanwhile, Marius still going for that overtake for P2. These two really, in fairness, have to help each other to try and get to Mirko Bortolotti. They're not doing that. Marius Stuk breaks as late as he can and manages to get past Jens Fiedler. That is job done for him. But now into the second chicane, the Variante de la Roja is the one. Now Jens Fiedler has that slipstream. Could he maybe try to do something? I think he's just a little bit too far back.
Well, we'll see. Doesn't look like it at the moment, but you know, the slipstream and everything, that is always a factor here. But Zug looks really fast right now. Already opened up the gap to Fiedler to over half a second. So he's kind of creating a bit of a gap right here. We've got a bit more of closer action going on here with P4, 5 and 6, Böckmann, Springop and Sasse. They are really close to each other. Let's see what happens here. Slipstream, well, you gotta say, the fight's not as close as they were in Heat 1. But, you know, still half of the race left. Which sounds more than it is. It's only 3 minutes, of course. But you never know what might still happen. People making mistakes or really gaining in the slipstream as they do right now. Look at that, Jan-Philipp Springop. That gap is dropping further and further. Looking up the inside, trying to unnerve Mike Böckmann ahead of him. And now it's all about the exit. Who can get the best exit out of those three guys? And that man might be in with a shot of overtaking now. Let's see. And Philipp Springer is still 3/10 behind. Doesn't seem like enough to really get that overtake done. Yeah, he's not close enough there. Couldn't quite manage to get into overtaking range. Rest of the field pretty spread out at the moment, actually.
Yeah, it is. And, well, Jan-Philipp Springop, the one we're looking at, in the middle of that train, at the end of that train, is Hugo Sasse. Of course, this is a 5-man train, all within a second of each other still. And of course, Marius Zug leading that one. The thing is with this slipstream train is that you don't really gain positions if you're not the second person in that train, because everyone else behind that or in front of you has slipstream as well. And it's difficult to overtake slipstream on slipstream, because then it is really, you have no advantage going onto the straight. It's just everyone on the same page.
Well, that's where you can really make up a bit with, I think, with your driving. If you get the good exit out of, especially Parabolica, of course, or it's not called Parabolica anymore. I always forget with Monza.
What is it called? I thought it wasn't called Parabolica anymore. But
it is not called Parabolica. It's named after a famous Italian driver, but I forgot which one. But yeah.
Well then, last lap commencing here. Mario Souk or Mirko Bortotti, I think, already has taken the white flag. No, there he is, taking the white flag. Barry on the left-hand side, there he is. On the right-hand side, rather, is waving that flag frantically. And we're on the last lap of the race now. 6 minutes is quite short, but if you take both of the races in together, you still have 12 minutes of racing. But it feels like it's 2 minutes and it's over. That's how close these sprint races are here, or these heat races in the W12 series. And the unfinished spring up, couldn't capitalize on the fact that he had a better exit there out of Ascari and had to stay in fifth. The unfinished spring up, it is the one we're looking at right now in, of course, the AlphaTauri livery. Mario Souk in second, a 1.9 second gap. I think we could say that Mirko Bortolotti really has this one settled. I don't think that Marius is going to be able to do anything about that. Behind him, though, it is Jens Fiedler with a train of 3 behind them. Mark Beckman, Spring Up, and Zasse, all 3 still in with a shot of overtaking one another. What, at the moment, 10 of you here, of course, Ter Eugen says good evening to all of you. I hope you're enjoying this. Of course, the second heat race just underway. We're coming to the end of it, the last lap of that feature race, or of the heat race. There goes out for the swing up, looking to the inside of Beckman. Not quite able to do anything there. The rundown to Parabolica, which I'm still going to call it now, because at least I have a name for the corner then, because I don't know the new one. I'm going to look it up now after this heat race, but does he have a chance? Not really. Looks like he's just a little bit too far back. He pulls to the outside though. Beckman is going to defend. He's going to have to do it around the outside on the rundown to the line. Mirko Bortolotti, meanwhile, is going to come through to win this at the front of the field. There he is, crossing the line in P1, excuse me. Mario Souk finishes in second ahead of Fiedler. And there is that run. All 3 of them, Beckman, Spring Up, and Zasse, finishing within a second of each other.
Yeah, quite a different race from what we saw first time round. Much more. We had a lot of things happening in the first corner, but after that, the race was pretty much, you could say, done and dusted. Quiet. It was very quiet. Everybody just had their position. Nobody really had a chance to really go for an overtake, at least nothing that we saw. And the gaps also were pretty big between everybody. Bastien Perez with a little bit of a drift. Ooh, a bit too wide. Oh, no, he manages to keep it out of the wall. So
some big losers in this race, though, Kev. I can see Martin Stadtmann down 10 positions. Markus Deutsch down 8 positions. Winston Eckel down 8 positions on his starting position. And, of course, this isn't only going to give you points. This is also going to decide the grid for the feature race, which is coming up right about in a minute or so, because of course first we have warm-up, but well, it is so harsh, this system. 6 minutes, you cannot really make any mistake there, and well, 3 people did. Stadtmann, Eckel, and the last one I forgot. I think it was who was it?
We had the crash between Deutsch and...
Yeah, Markus Deutsch is the other one who lost a lot of points or a lot of positions. So 3 of people who usually are there at the top, or at least the top 10, are down now in the lower positions at the start.
Yeah, and if you lose one position in the heat race, that means you lose 2 positions pretty much for the starting grid for the feature race, which is always horrible. Let's be honest. You really don't want that to happen. But now we can have a look at the grid for the feature race. As Niels Langeveld, as the winner of the heat race 1, will start from pole position ahead of the winner of heat race 2. I hope you know the procedures by now. Mirko Bortolotti starts from P2. We will go through as the drivers are starting to join the grid. We're not gonna go through it name by name, but I'm gonna click through it so you can look at the whole grid, because all of the drivers are almost here and we need to get going with the racing, of course, because that's the thing we are here to see. And you can hear the engines revving and the driver starting. Niels Langeveld starting from pole position. 5 red lights, and there we go. Not a great start by Niels Langeveld. We can see it perfectly from that camera, actually. Mirko Bortolotti getting a good start. And we've got another car spinning at the back. But now Niels Langeveld having to defend from Mirko Bortolotti, who is already ahead into the first corner. They're going in side by side. Mirko Bortolotti and Niels Langeveld fighting for that first position. And it looks like Mirko will get out on top. He's got P1 right at the start. What a perfect start, you gotta say, from Mirko Bortolotti there.
Into the variante della Roggia, they go to second chicane. Niels Langeveld looking to the inside. Mirko Bortolotti though has that one covered. A little bit further back though, here's Jan Springer up side by side with Jens Fiedler in the background. There's a spinner, that is Hugo Zasse, who is off on the left hand side, dropping all the way down the back of the field, still side by side though there between Springer and Fiedler. A little bit further back, here we have, I think, Patrick Head together with Florian Becker. I think, is that Stadtmann dropping down as well, or Gustavo Xavier in the 105 Porsche that is dropping down there on the inside. Had a little bit of a touch there with someone, at least I thought I heard that. But Gustavo Xavier there, not coming through that first lap cleanly, sadly for him. Patrick Head side by side with someone, I don't know exactly, Jordanovski? Is that how I pronounce it?
I'm guessing. There's so much happening right now. Look at that field. There's so many Porsches going down those Monza straights and going side by side, trying to find space on the track. Not quite enough there. Look a bit further behind, going through the final corner. We've got another car going off there in the background. I think at least I saw some smoke. And at the top, it's also getting very close. Let's go over there as well, as Niels Langeveld is now going past Mirko Bortolotti back into turn 1. And Mirko Bortolotti didn't look like he was really fighting that one. And Langeveld is now passed into P1 once again. But look at those guys, those I'd say top 4 guys. Langeveld, Bortolotti, Piberzug, all still in for a shot at the big one, at the victory. They're all trying to take it away from this man right here, Niels Langeveld, who is now back at the top after his slow start.
Well, we saw him lose that lead in heat race 1 as well. Exactly the same in the feature race. This time he lost it for a little bit longer. Of course, to Mirko Bortolotti. Maybe Mirko Bortolotti wants to try and work together with Niels Langeveld. However, Niels Langeveld seems to create a little bit of a gap between him and Mirko Bortolotti. Something that we're not used to seeing here. Especially on a track like this where slipstream is so apparent, that Mirko Bortolotti is losing out in the corners. Usually, of course, I think it's the first time really we're driving the Porsche Cup here this season, or at least I can't remember the last time we've driven it. And it seems like Mirko Bortolotti a little bit out of practice maybe with the Porsche Cup.
Well, out of practice, but still one of the faster drivers in this field, of course.
Shows a statement, I think.
Well, you know, you've got drivers that prefer one car, drivers that prefer another car, and it looks like Niels is feeling really comfortable in that Porsche Cup car, except for his starts, which he really has to work on, I think. because, as you said it, in the heat race and in this one, he's lost the lead at the start. So something to consider working on, I guess, for Niels there. But if he can make it up with his pace like that in the races, it's not too big of a problem, I guess, for him. But, you know, just think if Niels now even had a good start, he would be probably unbeatable right now.
Yeah, he would, but that gap, of course, opened up a little bit at the beginning. Niels Langeveld defending from Mirko Bortolotti. And the gap to the guys behind them also not increasing in any way. So this isn't helping Mirko Bortolotti either. The fact that Piba and Zug have slipstream as well. Maybe Mirko wants to try and work together with Niels Langeveld to maybe create a little bit of a gap to the drivers behind them. And then he might want to start fighting together with Niels Langeveld. But I don't know, your teammates, maybe you want to work together to increase that gap. It depends, I think, on the driver.
Well, since we don't have like as we had last season, the team championship anymore, we've ditched that. I don't think there's a real incentive to really go for team play, I guess. Because at the end, I think both Niels and Mirko want that P1, and they're just playing like maybe the strategic game at the moment. But as we see, Mirko going past Niels there once again. But at the end, it's still always going to be a fight between the two of them, and it doesn't seem like, even if they're working together, that Piba and Zug, they can't really shake him off on pace. It seems like those guys really can stay and hang with them, at least for now.
Yeah, well, they can't overtake. Like I said, it's usually the front two cars of that train that usually can overtake each other and can try and make moves. Apart from that, you're really in the slipstream, and well, you're on the same terms as the guy ahead of you. And I think that's a perfect illustration of what we're seeing right now, because, well, Piba not really able to do anything on Langeveld. Neither is Zug on Piba.
Well, we gotta see. It seems like Mirko is increasing the gap to Langeveld a bit. He's inching past that half a second gap, which he's opened up pretty much immediately. So let's see how that one goes. Dropping down a bit. It's fluctuating a lot right now. But let's look at something else maybe for a bit. Hugo Sasa, I see we've got him in a big, very close fight between a lot of cars there. He's got Robert Hager behind him, trying to get past, and Bastien Perez trying to defend from him. Very close fighting there. Also between those three drivers. We've got a lot of close fights right now in the field. I do realize that, as Hager, is he going? He's going for it through Ascari and just makes it happen.
Makes it stick around the outside of Ascari. What a move from Robert Hager. And, well, you have to have a certain confidence in the car to be able to make that move work a little bit further back. Gustavo Xavier side by side, but Bunagel, I think as well, the silver driver, makes it up the inside of Gustavo Xavier. Not really able to make that pass stick though. However, Gustavo Xavier now with the better exit. Of course, a pit stop has to be done here in this feature race. 8 minutes now into this 18-minute race. Almost halfway there. It is about that point where we go into the pit stop phase. Thomas Piba, though, says, I'm not wanting to go into that pit stop phase. Bortolotti has a little bit of a gap now at the front. And Thomas Piba goes past Niels Langeveld. Niels Langeveld says, no, I want that position back. Does get that position back. And
there's a spin!
The gap, and there's a spin for Niels Langeveld. Niels Langeveld is round, and it's exactly not what Niels Langeveld wanted. But Mirko Bortolotti now with a 1.6 second lead. This is exactly what this man wanted.
Yeah, we talked about it, how fast and how good Niels looked in that Porsche. But you just saw it there, how difficult that car can be. You just put it the slightest centimeter too far off the curb into the grass or the sand or whatever, and you just can lose the car so quickly. And I think we just saw that with with Niels Langeveld. I think he just put that car a bit too far out on exit there of the second chicane, and then you just lose it. And that's just such an easy mistake to make, that even such great fast drivers as Niels, it can happen to them at any point as well.
Yeah. Well, it's so easily done. Just too early on the allow paddle, or just a little bit too much. And around you go, as we saw. Thomas Piba now inherits the lead because Mirko Bortolotti had to go into the pit lane. Marius Zug in the slipstream of Piba now. This is the chance for Marius Zug. If he ever wants a chance to get past Thomas Piba, this is the chance that he's been waiting for, because now Piba doesn't have the slipstream ahead of him anymore. Now Zug has an advantage over Piba. He's going to have to go around the outside of Curva Grande to the inside, maybe, of the Variante della Roggia. Not quite able to make it stick or really go for a move. And, well, Kevin, if he wants to do it now, this is hammer time, you would say.
Yeah, well, I don't think at the moment, of course, you always want to get past the driver ahead of you, but you still gotta think about the big picture. Maybe not risk, you know, a fight always, you lose a couple of tenths here and there in a fight, and with both of them probably know that this lap is probably going to be the lap where they get into the pit lane. So I don't think at this point it's worth fighting and losing time in the on the in lap, because you might be able to gain something, at least a bit, on Mirko, and for the big picture, I think that's the more clever plan, and I think Marius Zug also thought of that himself. Let's see if everything I said is nonsense and Marius goes for an overtake here, but he's not really close enough there to really go for it, and of course has to think of otherwise. Let's see, Piba and Zug, are they going into pit lane? Yes, they are both, of course.
There we go.
Going into pit lane, and we got a couple of drivers. No, not really, actually. Almost everybody has been into pit lane already, except for Chantel, who will now be joining Piba, Zug and Augustin in the pit lane. So, the one thing we want to know is, how will this affect the standings at the top? I don't think Mirko will lose the lead there, but we'll see. Piba and Zug already on pit exit. Let's see where they rejoin the track. There we see them. It looks like Mirko has really done a good job. Look at how much of a gap he's opening up there. 1.4 seconds now, the gap between Bortolotti and Piba in P2. So he's done a good job. Pit lane time looks pretty good for all of them. Mirko a bit longer.
The gap has actually come down. The gap has come down there, Kevin. The gap was almost 2 seconds before Mirko Bortolotti went into pit lane. Now it is 1.5, so they have actually gained something. And like you said, it wasn't nonsense after all. It's exactly like you said. Maybe if they wouldn't have fought here, they would have been in the slipstream of Mirko Bortolotti. Not quite able now for Thomas Piba to do so. And, well, Marius Zug wants to try and overtake him now, because he knows that now it's a straight finish, or it's a straight sprint until the finish flag falls. And, well, it's him against Piba now, and I think that Mirko Bortolotti is a little bit too far out of the picture now. Yeah,
with that 1.8 second gap opening up ever further, you don't really see anybody will be able to fight him at the moment. It's not looking likely, because as you said, of course, now Zug of course knows, okay, Bortolotti is ahead. The only realistic position at the moment is that P2 from Thomas ahead of him, so he will be starting to fight him, of course, any lap now. Maybe not this lap, because you also have to think, you know, about racing strategy. You've got a lot of slipstream, and if you're really smart, I'd say, you leave the overtake, or if you're really confident in your overtaking ability, let's say it like that. If you're really confident, you leave it up until the final lap, because then of course Piba won't have the time to get the slipstream back and have an attack himself. So Let's see for what option Marius Zug will choose. If he stays back and really goes for it in the final laps, or if he tries it earlier. We'll keep an eye out for that. But of course, we've been here for a long time. Let's go a bit through the field as well. Let's give the other drivers some spotlight as well. He has had a lot of spotlight because he has been in a lot of battles, especially in the heat race. Jan-Philipp Springhoff again in a close fight with Marek Böckmann, Benjamin Moser right behind them. Benjamin Moser at the moment fastest silver driver, silver class leader of course as well. And looking for another great overall finish here. Once again, I see a lot of fighting going down further in the field. Jan Linz, Ben Bühnagel here. First last mode, there's the contact! There is the contact between Ben Bühnagel and Jan Linz. That one really looked a bit clumsy, you gotta say. Don't want to blame anybody right now because of course we've seen only a bit of it. But it did look avoidable, I'd say at least.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the thing is, who do you give that to? And I think we're going to come to that a little bit later because Bühnagel and Fiedler are at the moment fighting the 992.
And there's another contact!
And further contact with, I think, Fiedler, who's gone past now. Luckily, all people through Ascari can avoid that contact, but Fiedler has damage, is now overtaken by Robert Heger. And Sean Taylor is also going to overtake him. Wow, I did not expect that.
Yeah, a good choice to look at for that moment. Seen two contacts in very quick succession there. Didn't look great for Ben Bühnagel, you gotta say. Being involved in two crashes this quickly, one after another. Well, I guess the stewards will have a look at that. After the races are finished. But we can see Niels Langeveld. You gotta say he has recovered well from his spin. Still in the points, P9 and looking at maybe an overtake on Winston Eckler ahead of him. We know that he's got the pace. He just needs to execute it. Let's see if he can manage something there. Other than that, well, I see. Yep.
Winston Eckel is no slouch either in that Porsche Cup car. We saw he was quick. He just lost a lot of positions in the heat race.
No, not yet. I'm just having a look at that gap between Pieper and Zug because I don't want to miss anything if something might happen there. But right now 4/10. We're gonna stay on this fight because it's very close. But when I see the gap dropping down very far between the
white flag.
It is the white flag, it is the last lap. Bortolotti, you see the time popping up, that means he's just gone past start-finish straight. And I'm gonna go over there because it is go time now for Marius Zug if he wants to get that position 2 on the podium. Let's see if he can do it. It is the final lap. The bets are on.
2.5 tenths, 2 tenths is the gap now here, Kevin. If there's one time that he can try it, it's here into the Variante della Roggia. Around the outside, it's going to have to go, though. Thomas Pieper takes the inside, and Marius Zug never really got alongside enough to make that pass stick. Now maybe into the Lesmos. He's up the inside. Is there going to be contact? We saw it earlier on. They're side by side through the first lap position for P2 on the last lap of this race. And, well, Marius Zug says, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to let you pass. And on that run down to Parabolica from Ascari, I'm going to get you again. He's going to set him up, maybe into Ascari as well. It's where he wants to try it. He's going to pull to the outside. He's going to have to wait to after Ascari. Mikko Bortolotti surely has this one settled now. He is all over Thomas Pieper, is Marius Zug. You can see the pace difference between the two here. And while Marius Zug is going to pull to the outside or the inside here, that run is not too long anymore. He's going to pull to the outside, fake it to the inside. The outside again. But Marius Zug, I think, is left a little bit too late here.
Oh, it looks like he's got a good exit now. It's a run to the line and Marius Zug is past Thomas Pieper. Can Piba do it now, maybe? That looks very close, but I think Zug's got it. Yeah, Zug has got it. He's got P2 in the very final corner. Just as I expected. Left it up until the final lap of the race to get that overtake done. And did a great job there. You really gotta say. Of getting that P2 from Thomas Piba.
We missed Mirko Bortolotti coming across the line, but that is no issue because there is a reason we saw that in the background. Oh, Patrick Hen or Hugo Sassa was that, I think, going off the track as well, using some further positions at the last moment here in this race. There he is, crawling to a hold. Did he put in enough fuel though? I don't think he did. And he is just across the line. Exactly enough fuel though. But just not enough fuel to come over the line in quick succession.
Yeah, drops down a couple of positions there at the final, in the final lap. And now we're just waiting for Marinko Jordanowski to go past the finish line.
Oh, giving it a good old slide there, giving it a good old power slide. And across the line we go. And that is it. Everyone has come across the line. The results are in for this race. And Kev, why did you lead us through them?
Well, as you might know, I said it before, we've got a bit of connection issues here on my end. So I can't see it. I know you can see it because I chose it in the SDK, but I can't actually see it right now. So I'm gonna reload the overlay and hope that it shows up. Now it does. Great. Mirko Bortolotti wins the first feature race of the evening. It's been a very straight fight between Nils Langeveld and Mirko Bortolotti. Langeveld winning the qualifier and his heat. Bortolotti won his heat as well and won the race. Marius Zug, as we saw, got a absolutely not even last lap, it was the last corner overtake on Thomas Piba. Great racing, great respect between those two drivers there. Was awesome to see such close racing at such a high level. It's always fun. Thomas Piba getting the third step of the podium, usually something you would be happy about, but I can't see him being happy about that one because he lost it that late. But he's also had a great performance tonight here in the Porsche Cup car at Monza, so he can still be proud of what he's done, but of course, as a racing driver, you just know that it hurts a bit that he's lost that position. Hendrik Augustin in P4. We didn't really see much of him, so it seemed like he had a pretty calm race there. Mike Böckmann in P5, Jan-Philipp Springop in P6. Look at the gap between those two drivers. 0.3 of a second between Böckmann and Springop at the line. Almost as close as Zug and Piba. So those two guys also had a fight right up until the finishing line. And Benjamin Moser, you gotta say, right behind them, also just a 10th away. So a three-way fight to the finishing line between those three drivers. Benjamin Moser, of course, also the winner of the silver class, which will be handy for his silver class championship fight that he's still in. Winston Eckel in P8 manages to keep the position from Nils Langeveld, who finishes in P9. He will be the most disappointed driver of the evening. He was sitting in P1 or P2 at that point, but still very comfortably in P2, I'd say. And then just from the tiniest of mistakes and drops down to P9. Julien Rambaud P10 overall, P2 in the silver class. Martin Stadtmann finishes in P11, Pascal Haas P12, and Thomas Leitgeb finishes P13 overall, but P3 for the silver class. We're gonna go through the rest of them as well. But then, what are your thoughts on this race tonight?
Well, I think the Temple of Speed and the Temple of Slipstream wasn't as crazy as I expected. in the end, it seems like a lot of drivers just got stuck in those slipstream trains and weren't really able to overtake. So I think a little bit disappointed because we expected so much, but disappointed in a good way because in the end we still saw some incredible racing, and on a different track we would be very happy with the amount of overtakes that we've seen here.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was Monza, and it was it was a lot of stuff that you just expect to happen at Monza. But so it was really split down the middle, I think, for me. We saw some great racing. I think especially Heat 1 for me was really exciting. Really remembered that. But I think we just saw a bit, sometimes too much ambition, I think, from the drivers with some of the stuff, especially in the feature race. But of course, then again, 31 drivers on track in the cup car, all trying to find space. That is going to be a tight one, but yeah, overall it was really good to watch, and yeah, a great way to finish off this first server.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for us now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to go into our usual server 2 draw break. We will be right back after the draw has been made. Until then, of course, stay here because you don't want to miss the action of server 2.
we are back. We are back here with the Circuit de Magny-Cours in the GT4 class. Sorry for the very long delay, but we've had some technical issues all evening, and those also are showing up right now. Okay, it's back. I hope we can get that second part of the stream over for you guys in a at least watchable manner. If anything is happening, just tell us in the comment section. But yeah, we're back. I'm back here with my co-commentator Dan. Dan, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody, Dan.
Well, we're back here at the Circuit de Magny-Cours, like you just said. A track that, well, to be honest here, Kev, it is not one of my favorites. Partly because it's located in France. And I don't like the language they speak, because I am so bad at it. I don't have anything against the language because the language, it's just because I am so bad at it. So that's why, just to explain myself, I have nothing against the French, but the language is just too difficult for me. So, yeah. But with the GT4s, of course, the GT4s have a BOP. We can go over the BOP, I think, if I'm quick enough with that. Kevin, why don't you continue with what is going on in qualifying?
Well, I can. I've actually got something there. Of course, the GT4s do have penalty weights, as they usually do, and I've got something to show it on stream, so we don't have to go over it in such detail. The drivers or the viewers can see it. So the Aston Martin has got plus 30 kilograms, the BMW has got plus 15, the McLaren has no penalty weight at all, the Mercedes has got plus 28, and the Porsche has got also no penalty weights at all. I'm gonna leave it up on the screen for a bit longer. But then if you already got that document open, you can tell us which drivers are locked to which car. So who has to drive which car? Maybe you can tell us that, so that I don't take away your job at all, completely.
Well, you caught me off guard there, I have to say. But car allocation, I have it in front of me right now. So we can go over it. Of course, in the GT4s, it is Hendrik Augustin, who is bound to the Aston Martin GT4, Mirko Bortolotti to the Mercedes, Marius Zug to the Aston Martin, Daniel Sommer to the BMW, and Niels Langeveld, who has to stick with the Aston Martin. That is the field, or the drivers that have to stick to the car that I had last time round. In the GT4s, whew, that was a lot to go over very quickly here, Kevin.
Yes.
There's the penalty ways. You saw them on screen. Well, make of it what you will, but the Aston Martins and the BMWs were very quick last time out at Indianapolis when we saw the GT4s for the last time. And I think it's only fair that the Aston Martins, the BMW, and the Mercedes have the most penalty weights here.
Yeah, well, that's how the cookie crumbles.
Adding to that, the McLaren was not used at Indianapolis, which surprised a lot of people because there it was quick. Let's see if it's as quick here this evening at Magny-Cours. Of course, a track that is less towards the McLaren, but of course it has 0 penalty weights. So it is still going to be quick here, no matter what.
Yeah, we'll see how the GT4s handle this track. Of course, Magny-Cours, the track that was added with the with the latest iRacing update. Other than you, Dan, I was always not always, but I've been for a long time now quite a fan of this track, actually. Still remember it from the older Formula 1 games when they were still racing here, and I kind of remembered now that I've seen it in iRacing how I think this track is really good. Missing a bit in elevation changes. It's a very flat track, but I do like the corners, I do like the layout, and I also don't like the French language, but I love me some baguettes. I don't know. It's getting a bit out there. But
it's getting a bit out of hand now.
It's getting a bit out of hand now. But no, we love the French. produced some great racing tracks, I think. Magny-Cours produced some great racing drivers, Alain Prost, Le Mans, of course. One of the greatest races of all time with the 24-hour of Le Mans. And produced some great footballers, which is not applicable here, but still, I think I had to mention that one.
Yeah, well, Kev, 7 minutes into qualifying now. Mikkel Bortolotti, as usual, on top. He didn't get the quali pole in the last server, but he's up for one now. And well, what can you say? He's going to drop his lowest scores. But if he, for the rest, only has wins to count against that, it's still going to be difficult for the opposition to, well, quite get close to him.
Yeah, he's just, you know, I think we've talked about that in the past. Winning a championship is just all about consistency and getting just the most out of weeks where you're maybe not performing as well. And Mirko has just done that. You know, he's just been always up there. Even when there were one or two drivers that were faster than him on any given night, he was still then at least right behind them, or in some way, shape or form even managed to beat them in the odd race or two. So that's what just wins you championships at the end. You know, just getting the one or two victories isn't enough. You gotta be up there performing every single time, and he's done just that. Another guy that has performed, Robert Heger, has just taken provisional pole position, 144.581. So good lap there, a great lap actually, if you look at the gaps there from Robert Heger.
Well, Kev, you don't seem to be the only one with connection issues. Patrick Hen, I think that is. Sorry guys, my internet is down. Can't drive today. Well,
it's happening everywhere. No,
are you living in Austria as well? Maybe in Vienna?
Horrible news there, of course, Patrick. We hope to see you back again next week for the final round. I hope everybody will be there when all of this will be decided. All of the championships, all of the racing, all of everything. You should definitely be there, and then the stream will hopefully, knock on wood, be working fine again.
Yeah, well, Robert Heger was the one who we're looking at in the Mercedes. Hendrik Augustin, this man, I expect more from him than P14 in this qualifying session in the Aston Martin. Of course, as we just saw, the Aston Martin has the biggest penalty weight, so 30 kilograms added to that car. So that's quite a heavy boy here in this qualifying. That is, as you can see, already affecting him with about a second slower than Robert Heger in the Mercedes. But the Mercedes actually not a bad choice here this evening, because it seems like the Mercedes is the car on top at the moment, even though it has 28 kilograms.
Yeah, the Mercedes is a very, very strong GT4 car, just always has been from the first race, I think. We've seen it being very near the top always. Talking about the heavy cars, Aston Martin, this man once again performing very well in a very, very difficult car. If you look at the rest of the field, the next Aston Martin already down in P11, and Niels Langeveld carrying that British chunk of metal up to P5 at the moment.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's really found himself in the last couple of weeks. Of course, he had that spin in the last server in the feature race, which, well, put him back to P9. But even though it put him back to P9, he had incredible pace. And, well, it's something that he can build off. And he's been strong, let's just put it like that, the last couple of weeks. And, well, I said last time to him, the last time I spoke to him, he was really finding himself still in iRacing. Really was finding iRacing, the handling model, a bit difficult, but he's it is clicked for Niels Langeveld, and well, you can clearly see that. This circuit, though, however, I don't know the layout, so I couldn't tell you which turn we are in at the moment. The only thing I do know is that we have a standing start instead of a rolling start here with the GT4 because of the last cornering section. Turn 15, 16 and 17. 16 and 17 especially. The chicane makes it really tricky for a rolling start. So the drivers have, well, in a democracy, they have decided that they're going to do a standing start instead of a rolling start.
Yeah, but you gotta say, the votes were, I'd say, very tight. It was in the end like only 2 more votes or 3 more votes for the standing start. So the drivers still pretty much 50-50 on that issue. You gotta say it's difficult for the rolling start, but with a field of, as we've got right now, 28 drivers, we'll have to see how far back they will start. If the grid goes as far as we see right now, all the way up to the lights, I think we should be good. But yeah, I hope nobody has to start like in the middle of the chicane or anything.
Well, we have seen that before. I can't remember which track that was where people started in a corner. But, well, let's hope that we won't see that here today. At the moment, the man who doesn't have to worry about that is this man, Maximilian Paul, in the Porsche on provisional pole position of 144.482. And with that time, I think at least you're not going to be near the back of the grid.
No. At the moment, looking very good. I mean, we... correct me if I'm wrong right now, but I don't think we have seen too much of the Porsche in the GT4 class near the top. So seeing Maximilian Paul right now on provisional pole position
Alton?
in the Porsche Cayman is quite a surprise, I think, at least for me right now.
Alton Park, do you still remember Alton Park?
Was there a Porsche?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
With Sean Terre, who got on the podium, the silver driver.
Yes.
Even in that race.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're correct.
The Porsche was Jonas Vana and Sean Terre. Oh, I forgot for a second. I blacked out completely. But Sean Terre and Jonas Vana, the ones who were carrying that Porsche there. And, the Porsche was quick there. This is a section that they were talking about. This tricky chicane is what they were talking about. It gets very tight on exit. So that's why they're not going to start on a rolling start. But instead of that, they're going to do a standing start.
Just gonna go quickly over to Clemens because he is at the moment the fastest BMW, a car we haven't talked about too much right now. Not looking like the greatest car choice at the moment, with Schmidt only in P12 and the other drivers in the BMW, Pellegrino 17, Fiedler Stadtmann down in 22 and 23. So doesn't look like the fastest car right now, the M4.
Well, I talked to Winston Eckel before we got into Server 2, and Winston didn't know the track, and at the moment he's in P6. He had the BMW as well, but he thought, like, what other car have I signed up with? He looked at the sheet and he said, oh my god, I'm signed up with the Mercedes. Even though this has that penalty weight, I'm willing to... well, take the risk to go with the Mercedes instead of the BMW because, well, I didn't like the BMW. It doesn't turn in. Mirko Bortolotti, meanwhile, goes to the top on a 144.461. But he said, I don't like the BMW. It doesn't turn in. And I was in call with him when he turned his first laps with the Mercedes, and he was like, oh my god, there's... a whole new world has just opened for me. This car actually turns when I want it to. And, well, that's amazing to see for Mirko Bortolotti at the moment. It's going through the last couple of corners. Improving again through Sector 1 and 2. What is Sector 3 going to be for him across the line? Not an improvement in Sector 3. And it doesn't look like it's an improvement either because he's had an off-track, it seems like. And that is qualifying done. That was the last lap. He was improving in Sector 1 and 2. Couldn't quite complete that lap because of an off-track there. Well, looking at the grid then, Mirko Bortolotti will start in pole position ahead of Maximilian Paul, Lens Langeveld in P3, Robert Hega P4, Benjamin Moser P5, the first of the silver class, Winston Eckel in P6, Gustavo Xavier second of the silver class in 7th, Marius Souk in 8th, ahead of Julien Rambo the third in the silver class, 9th overall, Hugo Zasse in 10th, 11th, Bastian Perez, 12th, Marek Beckman, 13th, Jan Springop, Clement Schmid 14th, Thomas Piwa P15, Martin Stelman P16, Marinko Yardanovsky in P17, Hendrik Augustin in P18, Stefano Pellegrino P19, Florian Stadtmann in P20, Pascal Haas P21, Sean Ter P22, Jens Vila P23, and Christian Meyer in P24, Ben Buhnagel P25, P26 for Thomas Leitgeb, Marcus Deutsch in P27, and P28 for Jan Lins. We got through them all, Kev.
What a performance there from Dan. Round of applause for that. And yeah, you got through that. And now we're hoping that our drivers get through the first race, of course. We're waiting just for the last couple of drivers before they go on with, as we said, the standing start. Only Mirko, Stefano, and Jan missing from the grid right now. That's why we're focused on Maximilian Paul at the moment. Let's see which camera will be best for the start. Maybe that one. Let's see. When Mirko will join the grid, we're gonna of course switch over to him. He will be the man to beat in this first race. One qualifying, won the feature race in the first server, and now it's all up to him. Can he win the first race in the second server? The lights are going on for 5 red lights, and we're green, 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 and that's not a good start by Mirko Bortolotti. Maximilian Paul on the inside for the first corner takes the lead right away. It's the evening of the not great pole position starters, I would say.
Yeah, well, Maximilian Paul, what a start from him. I don't think Mirko got such a bad start. I think Maximilian Paul just got an absolute rocket start and, well, did a great job. Now, though, the inside into Adelaide for Mirko Bortolotti. Maximilian Paul on the outside. At Adelaide, what a name, though, that is. The hairpin to the right-hand side.
That was
Martin of Niels Langeveld shooting wide, though. And, well, Maximilian Paul had to avoid that. Niels Langeveld.
Oh, and there's a big one.
In the background as well. That is Marius Souk. And that is not great there from the drivers. And well, a lot of people involved in that. Schmidt, Haas, Souk, Buhnagel, Xavier, Leitgeb, Linz, all involved in that. Pellegrino, Maya, they were all involved in it. Wow.
We've seen a big crash there in the first lap. Don't know quite what caused it. A lot of things happening there. First, you gotta say the very optimistic lunge by Niels, and then I don't know if that was the aftermath. I
think he just missed his braking point.
That's pretty much I think also what happened. He just missed his braking point there. I don't think he tried a real overtaking maneuver there. And then right after that, another big crash there. So everything again happening in this first lap. Maximilian Paul now in P3.
Yeah, well, Maximilian Paul has to come back now. Has to show Mirko Bortolotti that he has the pace. But, of course, we need a pit stop in both the feature and this race. So, strategy is going to play a part. So, well, however, the gap is 2 seconds. I don't think that Robert Hega nor Maximilian Paul are out of this as of yet. Into Adelaide we go once again. The outside for Maximilian Paul. This time no Aston Martin of Niels Langeveld to watch in his rearview mirror. Can this time just round the corner off. And Robert Hega defends that beautifully. And once again, Maximilian Paul is going to have to settle and wait for another lap.
Right behind, though, we have this close fight between 4 drivers. Niels Langeveld, Marek Bergmann, Jan-Philipp Springop, and Martin Stadtmann. Hega and Paul still fighting it out front. Look at that. 3 wide. 2 Mercedes and 1 BMW. The Mercedes of Bergmann now getting the worst of it. but still in it. Nils Langeveld P5 managed to increase the gap a bit from the guys behind him. Getting away.
Kev, I'm sorry to cut you off. Can we see what happened to Winston Eckel? He is now 19 positions down. He was not involved in that starting crash.
He entered the pit lane.
Okay, so he already made his pit stop.
Yeah, entered pits. He entered.
Yeah,
the
I can
pits.
see it now.
Yeah.
He's made his pit stop already. Excuse me for that, Kevin. Go on with
No worries.
what you were saying. Contact.
Oh.
Wow! Moser gets past Langeveld. Can the silver driver get up into the podium? We saw him do this at Virginia, I think it was, in the McLaren as well, where the McLaren was really quick through the slow, tight and twisty sections. That seems that McLaren is quick. Of course, all McLarens from the ASR team were quick there. People was quick as well there. People is quick again now. But might Moser be able to go for the podium? He does!
Oh, that's
but also goes
completely
very
overshot
deep.
it there. Oh, and now has to keep his car straight. Look at how many positions he's lost. There's a Mercedes in front of him, also going off track. So the driver's not too familiar with the track, it seems. A lot of mistakes there right now. Moser now dropping down to P8 after a very, very, I'd say, optimistic maneuver there up the inside. Breaking point for how is it called, the corner again? Adelaide?
Adelaide.
Adelaide.
Yeah, Adelaide.
Not in all of our drivers' memory, it seems like right now. As the guys at the front fight it out for P2, P3. Maximilian Paul has Nils Langeveld right behind him.
Well, I think now, Kev, we can say that Mirko Bortolotti can just see out this race and see what he can do with it, because 4.7 seconds, that's a gap that you're not going to catch that up really quickly, and that's also not going to be outdone with any pit strategy calls. However, we see cars go into the pit lane. Maximilian Paul, Julien Rambo, Bastian Perez and Hugo Zasse all into the pit lane. So a lot of people already opting to pit very early. The earliest pitter, I think, who's now up into the field is Winston Eckel. Let's see where these drivers exit compared to Winston Eckel. And I think Winston Eckel is not going to get there in time.
Let's see, there he was, Winston Eckel. No, looks like everybody has left the pit lane already. So he's pretty far behind. Let's look at the pit times.
32 seconds for
32
Winston
seconds.
Eckel.
So he's been in pit lane a bit longer than the other drivers. Of course, he had to fuel a bit more, but that doesn't really explain the almost 3-second gap there. So maybe something has happened. I didn't see a crash or anything from him on the SDK app. Oh, I'm sorry. On the SDK app, so I don't know if anything has happened. Most of the time it doesn't really record smaller incidents, so maybe he had a bit of damage that he had to repair with his fast repair or anything. Or maybe he's just fueled in a bit too much.
Yeah, well, that could well be the case. Henrik Augustin is at the moment in 9th. Like I said, I expected more from him, and he's shown that, up 9 positions from where he started. And, well, of course, avoided that starting crash. A lot of people losing a lot of positions. Hasn't made his pit stop, however, though. So you can't really look at those positions as they are in that position at the moment, because the pit stops haven't come into effect yet. Henrik Augustin, now seeing that, has gone into the pit lane, overtaken by Marinko Yardanovsky and by a lot more others. Let's see if he can stay ahead of Maximilian Paul. He's out of his pit box now, but still has a long trip down pit road to make. He could well be good here. It's going to be close on pit exit here with Henrik Augustin. Has the shorter line, but also isn't up to speed yet. Look at the left-hand side. There was Julien Rambo, I think. Yeah, there he is. Just got out ahead of Henrik Augustin. That was a close one on pit exit. Now down to Adelaide again. Henrik Augustin is going to look for the outside. Of course, that tight hairpin really favors the inside here, Kevin. Is he going to be able to make that move stick?
Let's see, brakes a bit later than Rambo. But of course, again, whiffs the braking a bit. It's a bit of smoke coming up there. Drivers just, I think, overestimating how late they can brake into Adelaide. But look at them going side by side through these very fast chicanes there. Brilliant stuff to watch here. But good respect between those two drivers, Henrik Augustin and Julian Rambo. Oh, now, as I'm saying that, there is the contact, and they are blocking off the road there.
Oh,
and that's a really bad... That was not good by Julian. I don't know why he was reversing there. That really didn't look great.
No, well... It didn't, but I think in the heat of the moment, Kevin, you also have to understand. Like, I'm not saying that this is a defense for help me here. Hendrik. But yeah, it's in the heat of the moment. It is sometimes difficult to keep your cool, and well. It definitely looked like a moment of lack of concentration there, maybe for Hendrik Augustin, and the touch with Winston was inevitable there. But back to the action we go. Hugo Zasse maybe defending from Bastian Perez. Bastian Perez in the Aston Martin gets back past the Aston Martin of Hugo Zasse. And Fiedler behind that in the BMW, the Red Bull BMW, looking strong as well to catch this pack. Gap almost below the second. Christian Maya, the silver driver, of course, in the Mercedes behind this as well. The Mercedes, a loved car. As you can see, the lead driver, Mirko Bortolotti, at the moment in the Mercedes.
Yeah, Mirko really flying at the moment. Let's look. Paul and Heger are in a very close fight there as well. Maximilian Paul, second of the drivers that have pitted already, but I don't think that the pit stop of Robert Heger is correctly showing up here, because his pit lane time is only 2 seconds. And that seems a bit low,
yeah.
but he's got a pit stop time of 8 seconds, so I'm a bit confused of what STK is showing me right now. Talking of pit stops, Mirko Bortolotti has come into the pit lane right now. 4.5 minutes left, so I think that's gonna be the moment where everybody else who hasn't pitted, so that's everybody up until Jan Linz in P7, will be coming into pit lane. Maximilian Paul getting past Heger, but he wasn't happy with that and is going for...
I
don't know what he was going for there.
Oh, and they touched. That was inevitable going into that chicane side by side. And I think just a little bit of frustration there from the Mercedes of Mark Bergman. I think that was, am I not correct with that? Or was that Jordanovsky?
No, I think that was, you were correct, I think.
Well, a little bit of frustration there from him. I don't know if you could get a replay of that, but well, that was unfortunate because Maximilian Paul, I don't think did anything wrong there. There was frustration from the side of the Mercedes and almost just looked like he ran into the back of him.
Yeah, that at least didn't look very good. Maximilian Paul now, after the pit lane cycle, back up to P3. And will now have to defend his position from Martin Stadtmann, who is right behind him in the... We talked about it before, in the it's seemingly very slow BMW, but Martin Stadtmann managing to pull it all the way up the grid. He's right now up 12 positions, actually.
Well, doing a tremendous job, and has pitted already, Martin Stadtmann in the BMW. Like you said, that carrying that BMW all the way up the grid. But look at the top 5, Kevin. That is incredible. All 5 brands are in the top 5. I think that the balance of performance here for this race was absolutely spot on. Excuse me, by the by race control, if you could call them that. Of course, we all know that the people behind the scenes are working very hard to get it as competitive as possible. But that was, well, Mirko Bortolotti, Langeveld, Paul, Stadtmann and Moser in Mercedes, Aston Martin, Porsche, BMW and McLaren, respectively.
That's always great to see when the brands can compete with each other. Seems like the penalty weights have befallen the correct cars to make it a bit more competitive right now. But we see the fights everywhere in the field right now, going really hard, really close. 1.5 minutes only left in this race. Mirko Bortolotti has half a lap to complete, so we might be seeing another lap. I didn't see a white flag the last time round we came around the start-finish line, so we might have another lap going here.
Yeah, we will. We will have another lap.
And we will see more of these great fights. Piba having to defend from Böckmann, who is getting mighty close in his Mercedes. It's McLaren versus Mercedes, a combination which, at least in my childhood was inseparable. McLaren Mercedes, but they are not separable here right now as well, because Piba and Böckmann, almost no gap between those two drivers, and I think we will see a very good last lap in this fight.
What can they do? Of course, if Piba can get up to Moser in P5, he could deny us a first ever all 5 different car brands in the top 5 this season in GT3 or in GT4, because GT3 I think we only have a couple. That was close to contact. Piba avoiding contact there with Mike Böckmann in the Mercedes. And, well, that was rather close there, Kevin.
That was close, but of course it can get close. That's not the problem. Just shouldn't get too close, or at least the drivers have to respect the space. Always have to leave it a space, as Fernando once said. So as long as they do that, everything is fine, at least in my book. And then they should get as close as they want. Which might be happening again now. Mark Böckmann again getting very close to Piba ahead of him. But again, not quite enough. Maybe now up the inside. Piba, they're going very wide. And almost looked like he let him pass there. I don't know if he maybe had a slowdown or anything, but he's dropped down very far now behind Böckmann. And leaves P6 to Marek Böckmann. And now we have a position change right at the top. Maximilian Paul goes past Nils Langeveld up into P2. And as Mirko Bortolotti wins the first race of the second server, Maximilian Paul gets his starting position back and goes past Nils Langeveld.
Well, on the left-hand side, you can see Mercedes, Porsche, Aston Martin, BMW, Mercedes. So it did not happen. Thomas Piba, on that last lap, lost the position to Marek Böckmann in the Mercedes. So we will not have all 5 different brands on the, well, in the top 5, which, well, to clarify, to have in the top 6, 5 different brands is still not bad. And it shows that the penalty weights are working. And it shows that every car can be there. So it's just every driver for himself. Now it seems like the cars are equal. It's just every driver now that has to make a difference. Thomas Leitgeb, though, the man in P24, and Ben Buhnagel, the man in P25. A 15-second gap between those two, so I don't expect anything to happen between those two. But coming through the last couple of corners now for Ben Buhnagel, 1 right-hander and a chicane to go. And then he has finished this Magny-Cours circuit, this first race here at Magny-Cours. Well, across the line we go, and Ben Buhnagel in 25th. Well, Kev, what do we take away from that first race?
Well, that braking for Adelaide is very tricky. And that it can get a bit too close on track sometimes between our drivers. Of course, with this amount of cars that we see on the track right now, it can get crowded. It can get very close between the drivers. But of course, sometimes it's a bit more messy. Sometimes it goes well a bit. It's a bit better. But yeah, pretty much, we're talking about the 5 brands in the top 6. How about we talk about the team in the top 4? Pretty much dominant performance right now from the Gazex Racing team. Mirko Bortolotti, Maximilian Paul, Nils Langewelt, Martin Stadtmann, all of them from the Gazex Racing team, and all of them on the podium and even P4. So the Gazex drivers have done something right this time around.
They have.
And as we look at the grid, we are of course in the reverse grid race, which means that P18, the finisher, the driver that has finished in P18, will start from pole position, and that man is Jan Linz in the Porsche. Starts from pole position ahead of Clemens Schmidt, Pascal Haas in P3, Stefano Pellegrino in P4. Hendrik Augustin starts from P5, Winston Eckel P6, Marius Zug, Jens Fiedler P7 and 8, Hugo Sasse, Marinko Jadonowski P9 and P10. Robert Heger and Jan-Philipp Springop start from P11 and P12. Benjamin Moser, Marek Bergmann P13 and P14. Martin Stadtmann and Nils Langewelt P15, 16. Maximilian Paul P17. Mirko Bortolotti as the winner starts from P18. Florian Stadtmann P19. Bastian Perez P20. Christian Meyer P21. Gustavo Xavier P22. Thomas Pieber P23. Ben Bühnagel P24. And we will jump over to the race because it's about to start as Jan Linz takes the 5 red lights and we're off in the final race of the penultimate round of the W12 Sprint Series. And what a start from Jan Linz. He is up and away in this second race, reverse grid race. Jan Linz, great start there by him. Pascal Haas up into P2. Clemens Schmidt lost the position at the start there. Drops down into P4.
Well, Winston Eckel ready up to, I have to say, but Stefano Pellegrino didn't start. Neither did Sean Ter and Marcus Deutsch. They did all not start, so that's a bit of a weird one. However, into Adelaide, though, we're once again, for most of the field, too wide. It's a corner that you can dive into. Luckily, this time round, they do keep it clean. And on the run after that, they keep it clean as well. So, Kev, at least an improvement from last time round.
At least an improvement in that case, yes. 4 drivers didn't take the start there. As we said, Jan Linz now dropping down to P2 and maybe P3 as Winston Eckel is trying to get it around the outside. Couldn't quite manage it there. Pascal Haas takes the lead in the reverse grid race. Jan Linz now, as I said, P2, but under attack from behind. Winston Eckel looking for another position there, as is Clemens Schmidt, who was, I think, for a second looking up the inside there, but couldn't quite manage it. And now Winston Eckel has stopped.
Slow down. That's a
has
slow
gotten
down.
a slow down. As fast as everybody else was going. It looked like it was stopping, but that's a slowdown for him. As we see a couple of cars diving into pit lane already. That's Marinko Jadonowski, Martin Stadtmann, Bortolotti is also dropping down. He's also in the pit lane. And yeah, Winston Eckel will not be happy about that. He was on a very good track of getting good positions, but one slowdown and he drops down all the way to P10. So that's how fast it can go.
Well, I can tell you where that slowdown happened. That happened at Nürburgring, turns 7 and 8, the stretched out chicane, you can call it. He tried to overtake Clemens Schmidt, but it didn't quite happen in, a fair manner. So there you got a slowdown. Meanwhile, Jan Linz, once again dropping back in front of him. We can see Benjamin Moser and Marius Zug fighting on the outside. Their Porsche and the Aston Martin. It is Marius Zug with the outside for Nürburgring turn 7. This is where Winston Eckel got that slowdown. Did exactly the same as Marius Zug did now. And watch what I say. He's going to get a slowdown for that. There he is. Serving a slowdown now. There could be contact between the two. The question for Marius Zug is now, did he serve that slowdown already? He did not. There we go. Dropping down once again. Not fully going on throttle because he needs to serve that slowdown. Look how much time he loses with that.
It's really difficult. As you can see, it can happen so quickly. Trying to go for an overtake in that chicane. Now look, Witzneckel gets the position from Marius Zug, so he profits from his slowdown that Marius Zug has gotten. Clemens Schmidt at the top, now back into P2, place he started from. And we've got a lot of good fights right now in this field. Very hard to keep up with them. Another couple of drivers jumping into pit lane. Eckel, Augustin, Langeveld, Bühnagel. All of them into the pits right now. Benjamin Moser, P6. Also got quite far up. As did the man ahead of him, Maximilian Paul, up 12 positions. Benjamin Moser behind him, up 7 positions. Also Robert Heger, plus 7 positions. So the drivers at the front right now coming from far behind in the grid, which is always interesting to see. Especially what will be interesting to see is how the early stoppers, how they will, where they will,
how they will compare against
yes.
Not early stoppers. Well, Mirko Bortolotti has stopped early. It was something that I'm not quite used to with Mirko, to be honest. Usually Mirko is the one who tries to go long, but decided that this time round he could take a risk and go for an early pit stop. Now it's just pure pace that it's going to come down to. And I think with Mirko, that is, well, you don't have to doubt him on that. And raw pace is always there for Mirko Bortolotti. Mark Beckman defending now from Piba. Couldn't quite do it. Up the inside of the Nürburgring, not quite. You have to stay off the green bit because, like I said and like you saw, you are going to get an off track if you are going to run over there.
Which can happen extremely quickly if you're going too wide through there. Mike Beckman now on the attack against Piba, looking for the inside there. And manages to do so, goes past him through this second of the fast chicanes. And look at the counter-attack that Piba was trying there, coming in with a lot of speed there, but it didn't really work out for him. It looked like he might have lost out more time with that than he gained on Beckman ahead of him. Rambo Augustin right behind now. A lot of drivers now again in pit lane. Mirko Bortolotti getting a purple lap time there, 44.698, up into P11 right now. Still a long way off from the top, but we still got 13 minutes of good racing ahead of us. So 12 minutes, I'm sorry. So everything still to play for here.
Yeah, well, Martin Jadanovski under attack from Mirko Bortolotti takes the inside. The silver driver says to Mirko, I'm not going to let you pass that easily. However, there he goes up the inside, and that is position done for Mirko Bortolotti. Behind that, though, it is Winston Eckel who got past Maximilian Paul as well. Winston Eckel also has stopped already, so he's now the fourth in terms of who has stopped. So after that slowdown, Winston Eckel very fast and quickly making up some positions. However, that was a look down the inside from Maximilian Paul and Winston Eckel. The exit, though, however, is now going to be from Winston Eckel. Different line into turn 9. And, well, paying off differently for Winston Eckel and Maximilian Paul. Maximilian Paul now with a long slipstream, of course, down this, well, kind of straight, but not quite straight, because you do have to, well, turn your steering wheel. But that was the rundown for Imola. And now we're on to Chateau something that I can't pronounce because I'm not French. That's why I said not my favorite language. But yeah, corner names are very difficult here. So I'm just going to call it turn 14.
That works just as well. We're going through the final chicane now. Going to look further up the front again. Benjamin Moser in P5. Getting very close to Clemens Schmidt. Maybe having a look up the inside. Who can brake later here? Nobody, it seems like. Looked like pretty equal braking points there. Benjamin Moser thinks better of it. and drops back down behind Clemens Schmidt, who has another chance to keep his position there. That's what I wanted to say. This corner that we're in right now with Benjamin Moser and Clemens Schmidt, very interesting to see the drivers having it seems like they do have quite the different approaches to that corner, which makes for which has made for some contact in the first race. Drivers have gotten better at it at the moment, but yeah, we do see very different approaches. I feel like when going into that corner. One more on entry, more focused on entry, one more focused on the exit. As Robert Heger is now fighting against Jens Fiedler and now jumping into pit lane, as is Benjamin Moser behind him. Clemens Schmidt and Jens Fiedler staying out. Pascal Haas also in pit lane there, of course. And Marius Zug staying out for another lap as well.
Yeah, well, it looks like Marius Zug is going to run this run right down to the vaporized fuel because, well, there is almost no fuel left in the tank of that Aston Martin. This is the lap where everyone last time came in, or last race, everyone came in together with Mirko Bortolotti. If we look at the timing tower on the left-hand side, Winston Eckel, that gap has opened up to Mirko Bortolotti, and because of that, more cars fit in between. At the moment, Marinko Jadanovski and Robert Heger, Maximilian Paul and Marek Buckman in between those two. Winston Eckel still losing 7 positions on his starting spot. So still, even if the guy's at the top pit, he would still be negative on where he started.
Yeah, well, that slowdown really cost him big. Because of course it might just be a 1 or 1.5 second slowdown. But the real loss that you have is of course much greater, because you have to slow down first, and then until you get back up to speed, you have also lost a couple of tenths there. So somebody who might be losing something else is Jens Fiedler, as Clemens Schmidt is going for the attack maybe down into turn 14, which won't be for too long because I feel like both of them should be coming into the pit lane now, as they do as well. Let's see, Jan Linz also has not pitted yet, and Christian Meyer has not pitted yet. So both of them probably, there they are, coming into pit lane. And there he is, Pascal Haas, the leader from before, probably getting back into the lead. There it is, up into P1 once again. Pascal Haas retaining his position there with quite a margin, 5.5 seconds up on Martin Stadtmann. So he's got a good gap that if he can manage to just hold it or not lose too much. Looking at the times, best times from those two drivers weren't too far apart, but that's a cushion that he could manage over time, I think.
Yeah, well, Mirko Bortolotti up 13 or 14 positions, it depends. Mirko Bortolotti couldn't quite get past Martin Stadtmann. And look at that, that is slowing everyone up behind that. Look at this train, this is absolutely amazing. This is what GT4 racing is all about. All these different brands, all these different cars in a train, able to overtake each other. Mirko Bortolotti, the one who will try and overtake Martin Stadtmann. 6 minutes to go still, so the earlier Mirko Bortolotti gets past Martin Stadtmann, the earlier he can chase down Pascal Haas. And with a gap of 5.5 seconds here, Kevin, he's going to need every second that is available to him. Now on the run, down to Chateau into turn 12. It's going to be difficult to overtake here, but now he has a long straight ahead of him into 14. Where can he do it? I expect him to do it at the end of the straight here. Not quite able to get close enough though.
It doesn't look like it right now. Of course, Stadtmann probably seeing that Pascal is a bit far ahead. Looking again at the best times and the last times Stadtmann is not really faster than Pascal Haas in P1. So P2 at the moment probably as good as it gets for Martin. So of course he will be doing everything to defend that position from Mirko. Even though I feel like it's just a matter of time before he does get past, which might be happening here into Adelaide. Let's see, it is a heavy braking zone. Stadtmann is covering up the inside nicely. And now Mirko Bortolotti has to go on the outside. And yeah, can't get past Stadtmann. Good defense there by Martin. Keeps a hold of P2 for the moment.
Yeah, well, Niels Langeveld, meanwhile, in P18, as we're 3 wide here, going into Nürburgring. That comes.
Oh, there's the
goal! And there we go, there's contact between Zug, Winston Eckel around again. And like I said, that cannot age well. 3 wide into a corner. Usually, a corner of that speed never goes well. And, well, I think Marius Zug getting out better there than Winston Eckel did, but that is unfortunate for Winston Eckel, and that is, I think, his race over and his W12 series round 11 over.
Well, as Mirko Bortolotti at the top does get past Martin Stadtmann now, so now he is on the hunt for Pascal Haas, but it's 6 seconds and only 3.5 minutes. It looks difficult at the back. Maximilian Paul going very wide for the final corner there. And there is so much stuff going on. I mean, look at those cars. How close everybody here is. This is absolutely insane what the drivers are producing right now. So much close racing here in the GT4s. Dan, you said it perfectly. That is what the GT4s are all about. That real... It's like watching NASCAR on a road track. That's how close some of those guys are in such huge chunks of cars. So it's not like 1 or 2 cars. It's like 4, 5, 6 cars that are so close to each other. And there's another contact there between, I think it was Schmid and Augustin.
It was.
And now Julien Rambeau might be trying to have a look as he gets closer to Hendrik Augustin. Maximilian Paul is now out. So he must have had a crash there. Jump to pits. Yeah, don't see a real crash. He's just left the track for a bit and then jumped to pits. So yeah, look at that. Marek Bachmann at the front of, or no, Benjamin Moser at the front of this field, and now Marek Bachmann trying to get past Benjamin Moser. Again, so much stuff happening. We're trying to keep you in the best fights as good as possible. The gap at the front is actually getting smaller. Bortolotti only 4.7 seconds, but with only 1.5 minutes remaining,
I don't think he's gonna get there.
Should be
if
able
nothing crazy happens.
Manage that gap, yes.
Well, with 1.5 minutes left, like Kevin said, it's not all to play for at the front, but for P2, definitely Stadtmann still in the slipstream of Bortolotti, Hega, and Fiedler. They do have a little bit of a gap. Jadanovski is definitely does not have a gap. Here he is, P6 behind Jens Fiedler in the BMW. And once again, 3 different brands in the top 5. That's good to see here, Kevin.
Yeah. The Porsche now on top ahead of the Mercedes, which is closing down fast, but again, probably not fast enough there. Looking at the drivers, look at how close the fighting still is here for those positions. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, all in very close proximity to each other. The spotters in there probably going mad at how much they have to tell them where the cars are left and right.
You don't know where to look.
We don't know where to look. Probably need 2 spotters, just 1 for each side. As now Benjamin Moser now looked like he was trying it around the outside of Beckmann. Couldn't quite manage it, but gets a good run down now to turn 14. Is he close enough? Doesn't look like it, but he's still going for it. He was side by side there. Getting over the curb and getting past Bergman. Good maneuver there by Benjamin Moser. Up into P6. Robert Heger has crashed. Robert Heger has crashed, so he's out. And jumped to pits. And still so much stuff going on the track right now. Look at that train of cars. Still fighting for it in the final lap of the race. At the top, it looks pretty much decided. The gaps are pretty big. But here at the... I wanted to say back, we're here with P6. Everything, it seems like, is still possible. Now, Bergman around the outside brakes very late. Benjamin Moser going a little bit too late. Loses it probably now on the exit. We'll see as they go into the next chicane. The dangerous slowdown chicane. Can they manage it?
Make it through cleanly.
They do.
Oh, just about got Beckman through there. Just about kept two wheels on the track. Gets past in doing so indeed. And, well, Moser there was kind of helpless in his defense because, well, Beckman did brake late, but he also got a very good exit. However, Benjamin Moser comes back here on Marek Beckman, and that is a great switchback by Benjamin Moser. The fake to the left goes to the right for Benjamin Moser. Still has to complete that move. It's not over yet, though. Now the run, of course, down into what will be turn 15.
Now Bergman has got the inside. Oh, but that looked very late by Bergman. Moser now maybe trying it with the switchback. Down the final chicane, Moser makes it past Bergman and gets P6 away from him in the final corner once again. Wow. Wow.
Well, what do we say? That was it already?
That was unbelievable. Yes.
Wow.
Whew. How exciting was that race? Unbelievable. That midfield fight. Look,
incredible.
Look at all those orange numbers you can see in the timing tower right now. Look at all of them. That is how close everybody finished to each other. And orange, as we know, means very close. And from P7 to almost P12, we only got one gap that is over a second. Everything else less than half a second away from each other. So, unbelievable stuff there.
Yeah, well, that was already the evening of racing, and what an evening it was. Let's go over the results here from the feature race, as they will pop up on your screen in any moment.
Yeah, I hope so as well. I'm working on it. I've pressed the correct buttons. But they're not showing up at the moment. I'm very sorry about that. Let's try that again. There they are.
Well then, Pascal Haas wins the feature race at Amico Bortolotti, as we see a big crash in the background. And something that luckily isn't sim, otherwise it would have been probably one of them would have been killed in that crash, a T-bone crash. But that is after the race, so nothing to fear about. Martin Stadtmann in P3, Jens Fiedler in P4, Marinko Jadanovski in P5, P6 for Benjamin Moser, Mike Beckman P7, P8 for Clemens Schmidt, Ben Buhnagel P9, Bastian Perez in P10, Hendrik Augustin in P11, Jan Lins in P12, Julien Rambo in P13, then P14 for Christian Meijer, Thomas Leitgeb in P15, Niels Langeveld in P16, P17 for Robert Heger, Thomas Pieber in P18, Winston Eckel in P19, and rounding off the top 20 is Maximilian Paul.
Yeah, there you can see the rest of the well, non-finishers, you gotta say. Marius Zug already 3 laps down, Gustav Xavier 9 laps down, so all of the drivers behind that, you gotta really classify them as DNFs. As we can see, if we stay down there maybe for another second, there was a lot happening, a lot of stuff happening in the reverse grid race, but as much as that was happening, as much awesome racing was happening in the front of the field, at the top of the field. Very, very exciting right up until the final corner. We've got somebody in the interview waiting room, and it is the winner of the reverse grid race. So we're gonna pull him up in. Pascal.
Hi.
Welcome to. So, winner of the reverse grid race. How do you feel?
Yeah. I'm feeling quite sweaty at the moment. Yeah, I never drove this track before, so the first heat was quite intense for me. Also, I got hit by Chanter because there was a huge crash in front of me, and I tried to avoid the crash, but then I hit Chanter. I tried to hold the car on the track, but the car was a bit damaged on the rear somehow, and then I pitted early, and I don't know how, but I know that 2 of my teammates got a penalty in the last 2 corners or something. I think this was the reason why I switched to P16, I guess. Yeah, and then in the feature race, in the reverse grid race, I was quite lucky. I saw on my Cups relative that Mirko and Martin pitted early, and his pit time was 27 or 28 seconds, something like this. And I saw on my relative also that I have at least 27.9 seconds left on the clock behind them. And then I decided also to pit a bit earlier, but somehow I get out of the pits like 6 or 5.5 seconds in front of them. And then they started to fight, and that I think that was my luck that I got the win, because Mirko was like half second or maybe sometimes 1 second faster than me, and I think this was the key, that they fighted like for 5 or 6 laps behind me, and yeah. In the end, I was in front like 2.5 seconds, and but this gap was like 5 seconds 3 rounds earlier, so Mirko was way faster than me, but.
Yeah, Martin managed to keep Mirko behind him for long enough that you were too far away at the end for Mirko to catch. So that was the second server. Looking back at the first server, Monza in the Porsche Cup, how was that for you?
It was quite unlucky because my time was not that bad. My qualifying time would be on P3 actually. But I got an off track in Ascari in the inside, and that's why I have to start from behind. And I don't remember, but I think in the second future race, in the future race, not in the heat race. In the heat race, I managed to go from the back to, I don't know, P9 or P8 or something like this. But then in the future race, I got hit by Chris Meyer. I was not able to avoid it. I was going to the left, but yeah, iRacing was quite accurate this time, and he touched me like only a bit. But in the pickup, it's more than enough. Then when you get a hit on the back, that you spin around, and at least I managed to get back from P28 to P12 or so. I think this is a good result for me. I mean, there was a lot of drive-throughs in front of me. I think like 4 or 5 drive-throughs for too many incident points. And Yeah, I think this was a good race for me, but I would like to go up in to the front, guys, because my pace was not that bad on Monza and in the P Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, you've shown that you really got the pace. Maybe next week final round of the W12. Pascal, I hope to see you back there, for the final round of the W12.
Of course, you will see me again.
Very good. Thank you very much, Pascal. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, no problem. Bye bye.
Well then, that was Pascal Haas, of course, from the Austin Sim Races. Next into the booth with us is a fellow countryman, Winston Eckel.
Thank you.
Winston, well, let's just say that tonight didn't quite go to plan for you. Of course, in heat race 2, I think it was in server 1, you started second. By corner 2, you were lost.
Yeah, correct.
The feature race, I think, wasn't too bad in server 1. You made your way up the order.
True, yeah.
And then in server 2, well, calamity struck in both races.
Again, yeah. Yeah, it was unfortunate. I don't know, I had a lot of fun. I think that's the most important tonight. It was very nice track and car combos. I really enjoyed it. It was really good fun, good racing. Also very respectful racing, all in all. But yeah, if you look at this track, it's narrow. It's like fighting for every inch on the track, and it's fun. But yeah, sometimes you're on the receiving end of the sometimes slowdowns and sometimes some contact as well. Yeah, but that happens. That's racing. But yeah, I had some fun. The cars were really nice. Also, the Mercedes felt really good on this track, and I really liked the track as well. It was like twisty, narrow, and also like the fast stuff was really nice to drive. So yeah, a lot of fun. Some small contact at the end, but there was really a lot of potential into it, I think, and that was good also for myself. But also like if you look at all the other drivers, we're all like very close to each other, and it was good racing. So I had a lot of fun, but yeah, I was a little bit more on the receiving end of the unlucky things than on the nice end. Let's just say it like that.
Yeah. Well, you promised me before we went live a top 10. You failed in both races. So
That's
what am
not
I going to
true.
get now?
That's not true. I finished in P8 into the feature race in Monza. So yeah,
Okay.
you're not
Well,
right. But yeah, I tried this race, but yeah, it wasn't good for me because in the first lap every time I was like in the top 10, really good in lap 1. But then in heat 1 of this race, I made a mistake on the entry and lost the rear nearly, so I could call it. But then I was in P15. And then in this race of like in the last race, I had I had a slowdown, and yeah, of course the whole field behind you, and also what race control said, what Maker said into the draw as well. From please be cautious and please watch out if you got to slow down. Please stay offline. So that was really hard, especially in lap 1. So you need to get offline and then slow down really fast. And I had like 2 seconds left to do it. So yeah, it was close, but yeah, it was unfortunate for me. But I had a lot of fun, and that's the most important, I think.
yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, if you had fun, you're enjoying it. And I don't
Yeah, I'm
know.
coming back. So
Exactly. And well, of course, next week, last round of the W12 series. It was a 12-week series. How are those 12 weeks? I know you've not been with us for all 12 weeks, but the weeks you were there, what is your experience, your general experience?
yeah, overall, I really like the format. That's the main reason that I'm here as well. I really like the format from the like he doesn't know what car you're going to drive and what track combo. It's I think really cool. And also, yeah, I think the racing I've been in like for like 4 or 3 races, I think, but I could clearly see like the increase of like more respectful driving as well. And I think that's the most important thing. And also like it's hard driving, it's fair driving, but it's good racing. And that's the most important thing. And I think that having fun with that comes automatically with like good racing. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. And yeah, I also need to thank you guys for broadcasting it, and also like all the people behind it, and also like Mirko for all setting this up. So I think it's really cool.
Thank you. Winston. Of course, thank you for your time. It's you didn't have the most of luck here this evening in both servers, and of course, hoping next time that your luck will get a little bit better.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Cheers. Good evening.
Well, Winston Eckel from the Platinum Racing team. Kevin, that was it, I think, for us this evening.
We've got another interview, actually.
Oh, yeah, we do. Oh, he's just popped in there. Let's get him in here.
So, for our final interview tonight, the man who is pretty much dominating the silver class. No, not dominating, but doing very well, of course, at the top of the silver leaderboard as of going into this penultimate round. It's Benjamin Moser in the booth with us right now.
Hello, guys. Finally, the interview is happening after the first miscommunication.
So, Benjamin, all in all, looking at just the silver class tonight, I think a very good performance all the way through both servers. Let's start off with the second server, Magnicor GT4. Amazing last lap overtake, last corner overtake. It was, of course, we were, of course, looking at it. I was screaming my head off.
Can't wait to watch it.
How was it? How was the race in general from your perspective?
The race in general was pretty good in my opinion. Fair but really hard battles. So you were always under any attack from any side. We were going 3 wide into chicanes where you have problems to even keep your line alone. So it was pretty fun. And yeah, the last lap overtake, I don't know by which racing god I was bitten at this moment, but yeah, thought I would go for it, and it paid off.
It paid off very nicely. It was a great fight between you guys. Looking back at server 1, Monza in the Porsche Cup, how was that for you? You also performed very well there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So today was a new patch from iRacing for the Porsche Cup with different changes. So everyone was pretty much blank for this race, which was interesting. So which you could see, I think it was in my heat where I think the first 5 or 6 guys, everyone missed the braking point for the first turn.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun. I think I would have done better if I haven't overheated my my tires into turn 1, and then I would have been able to contend into the top 3. But I mean, I'm in the silver class, so I can't be bothered with my results in silver class.
Well, just because it's silver class doesn't mean you can't fight with the top guys in the overall class. You're part of overall class, of course, as well. Silver class is just an extra part. But yeah, final question maybe. Looking at the silver class, of course, next week, final week of the W12 Sprint Series. How confident are you that you can take your lead that you've had for most of the time in the silver class, or I think almost all of the time, and convert it into the championship victory? How confident are you going into next week?
Pretty confident, to be honest, because I missed 1 week and we have, I think, 3 servers which results will be excluded. So when I was missing 1 week, so I have 2 of them already erased. So this current score is pretty much my score with the 3 races excluded. So I think I can be pretty confident, but till I can no longer mathematically be overtaken, I won't be calm and will do my best.
That's, of course, what we want to hear. So we will definitely be seeing you next week for the final week of the W12 Sprint Series. Benjamin, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week, and good luck for next week.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Well, Kevin, that was, I think, a great evening of racing.
Yes.
We've been through all the interviews. Of course, one last time, we have now to remember the viewers that last week is the last round of the W12 Sprint Series Season
Yes.
4.
Yes.
So I can't say looking forward to the last one, but well, I'm looking forward to once again seeing the W12 race. But no, it pains me that it is the last one already. It's gone so quick.
Well, it's always like that with the season finales. You have one smiling eye and one crying eye. I think that's how we say it in German. I don't know if that translates into English all that well, but I think it works.
Well, we understand.
I think you understand what I mean. Of course, it's sad to see the W12 season 4 go by this quickly, as you said. It's gone by in a flash. But of course, next week, the big deciders, the ones we've been waiting for, who will take the crowns, plural, of course, in the overall and in the silver class. We've got favorites. You gotta say that. We've got favorites in Mirko. We've got a favorite in Benjamin in the silver class. But again, everything to play for next week. So we'll see. I'm excited. I can't wait to see how it all ends up, how it all finishes next time around.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, it's been once again amazing to be here alongside you in the booth. And, well, for one last time, final 3 words.
Final 3 words. Okay. I'm trying to think of some that I haven't used before, because I think some of the ones that pop into my head I have used before. So
It doesn't matter.
I'm trying to be original as best as I can. But I think one that very much fits tonight was close, of course. The
Maybe
racing
aggressive?
has been so close. Aggressive. Aggressive is a good one. I think the drivers and how was the corner called again? Adelaide. I'll take
Yes.
Adelaide.
Great one. Great
that-
one.
I think that one has provided with at least a lot of entertainment. If not
Yes.
always good racing, in that case, it's definitely been entertaining what has happened there. So yeah,
well-
close, aggressive, and Adelaide. Perfect.
Well, for the last time, that was Kevin with the final 3 words of the evening. Next week, come back to hear what he has to say. His final 3 words about the whole season. I think his most difficult job so far on his final 3 words.
I'm gonna prepare for that. Yeah.
Well, I think you can prepare as much as you want. 3 words for this whole season is, I don't think,
Won't be enough.
or I think, will not be enough. So
No, definitely not.
You're gonna have a difficult job ahead. Anyways, everyone, come back next week to see that and see the last round of the W12 series. If you have enjoyed, be sure to smash that like button
Yes.
and subscribe to the W12 YouTube channel. If you don't want to miss any of the action next week.
And
For
you
now,
shouldn't.
from-
You shouldn't.
You should.
Don't miss that.
Because,
That's gonna
Exactly.
be amazing. It's gonna be great.
exactly.
So don't miss
From
it.
now, from the Circuit de Magny-Cours, from the commentary booth here, from me and Kev, from everyone from the W12 series, thank you for watching. And until next week, stay safe, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.